Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. In the previous video, we covered how to say before doing something, we do something else firsthand. And for the sake of conceptual symmetry, now in this video, today we're going to cover how to say after doing something, we're going to do something else. So when we were saying before, we used the word mae and we had the particle ni after it. So mae ni was to represent before doing something. In this video, we're doing after, so we're going to use the word ato. And this means basically after, and the particle that we're going to use with this one is the particle de instead of the particle ni. And instead of making the first clause in the dictionary form, the first clause in this grammar construct is going to be in the past plain form. So basically the form that this grammar construct is going to take in Japanese is the ta form of clause 1 plus the phrasing ato de plus the clause 2 in whatever respective conjugation it needs to be in. And one last little tidbit to note here is that the particle de in this grammar construct is actually commonly omitted for whatever reason, so a lot of the times you can just hear it as the ta form of clause 1 plus the phrasing ato plus clause 2 without the de particle whatsoever. So let's go into some example sentences to get a better idea of this grammar construct. For our first example sentence, we have the line Hon o yonda ato de nemashita. And what this simple sentence is saying is, after I read the book, I went to sleep. Breaking this down bit by bit, first up we have the word hon, which is the noun for book or book basically. Then we have the direct object particle o marking book as the direct object of yonda, and yonda is the verb yomu, to read, in its past plain form, yonda. Following yonda is ato de, that's just the phrasing that we need. Ato again means after, so basically after reading the book or after I read the book. And then to end the sentence we have nemashita, which is the verb neru, to sleep, in its past polite form, so nemashita. And so altogether that just translates to, after I read the book, I went to sleep or I slept. Hon o yonda ato de nemashita. And notice here how the nemashita is the second clause. It's in its polite form, but yonda is the plain conjugation of yomu. As the grammar construct demands, the first clause here is going to be in the plain form no matter what conjugation the second clause is in. But the second clause's conjugation of the polite form is going to make the whole sentence polite, even though there is one word, yonda, that's conjugated in a plain form there. It's the basically subordinate clause that doesn't affect the whole sentence's politeness or impoliteness. That's the second clause that commandeers that quality. So let's move on now. For our second sentence, we have another simple line, Tabeta ato de ha o migaita. And what this sentence translates to is basically, after I ate, I brushed my teeth. First up, we have the word tabeta, which is taberu, to eat, in its past plain form. So tabeta. Ato de is right after that, and so we know that is after I ate. Ha is the noun for teeth, and o is marking teeth as the direct object of migaita, which is migaku, the verb to brush, in its past plain form too. So this whole sentence is plain because, not because the first clause is in its plain form, but because the second clause is in its plain form. And altogether, tabeta ato de ha o migaita means, after I ate, I brushed my teeth. So just like the mae ni grammar construct, the ato de grammar construct can also be used with nouns that represent an activity or an event. So all we have to do is put that noun and follow it with the particle no and ato de to use this grammar construct with nouns instead of clauses with verbs and predicates and whatnot. So let's do some examples using nouns with this grammar construct now. For our first sentence, we have Bangohan no ato de nemuku nari mashita. And what this sentence translates to is, after dinner, I became sleepy. First up, we have the word Bangohan, which means dinner basically. We have no, which is the particle that's needed when we're using nouns with this grammar construct. We have ato de, we know what that means. Then we have nemuku nari mashita. We've covered nemuku narimashita, the grammar construct that it represents at least, in a previous video. It's when we conjugate an e adjective in its ku form and we use the verb naru to mean become that adjective. So Nemuku here is the ku form of the adjective nemui, which means sleepy. We drop the e at the end of nemui, so we have nemu. That's not a word, but if we add the ku after that, nemuku, that becomes basically the adverbial form of the adjective. And here we're using that with the verb naru in its past polite form, narimashita, to mean became sleepy. So if we combine that with the rest of the sentence, Bangohan no ato de means after dinner, nemuku narimashita means became sleepy. After dinner, I became sleepy. And this is a polite sentence because we have narimashita and not natta. For our last example sentence, we have the line Jyugyou no ato de gakushuu juku ni ikimashita. And what this sentence translates to is basically after class, I went to evening cram school. What a life. If we break down the sentence bit by bit, first up we have Jyugyou, which means class. Basically, the implication here is just normal class, school class. We have no ato de, so after class. After that we have gakushuu juku, which means cram school, evening cram school, night school, something along those lines. We have ni, marking that as the location because we're using the verb iku right after, which means to go. And here iku is in its past polite form, so it's ikimashita. And so that means went to night school, went to evening cram school. And then we combine that with the first part of the sentence, which is after class. So altogether, after class, I went to evening cram school. Jyugyou no ato de gakushuu juku ni ikimashita. And so yeah, that is how we're using ato de here to mean after something. And then we just complement that with another phrase to mean that's what we did after that thing. And it's very similar relationship to the mai ni, which means before. They're basically yin and yang. And that should cover the basic usage of those grammar constructs. So yeah, definitely a good thing to know. Definitely need to express temporal relationships in everyday conversation. So yeah.